Have you ever prayed, cried out to God for direction, asked Him again and again, "Lord, what should I do next?" but the answer never seemed to come? What if I told you the direction you've been praying for is already near you? Not in a vision, not in a dream, but in a person you keep overlooking. Sometimes the greatest answer to your prayer doesn't come from someone powerful. It comes from someone you think is insignificant. In the Bible, there was a moment when a king, yes, a king chosen by God, was desperate for direction, and the breakthrough he needed came from a forgotten servant lying in the wilderness. Today, we are going to uncover a powerful story involving King David, a starving army, and an abandoned man whose voice changed everything. And by the end of this video, you might realize the answer you've been praying for may already be standing closer than you think. There are seasons in life when everything feels confusing. Doors close, plans collapse, and suddenly the path that once seemed clear becomes foggy. Even great men in the Bible experienced this. One of them was King David. At this point in his life, David was not sitting on a throne in comfort. He was a warrior, a leader of men, but something devastating had just happened. David and his men returned to their camp in Ziklag, and the city was gone, burned, destroyed. Their wives were gone, their children were gone, their possessions were gone. Everything they loved had been taken. The attackers were the ruthless Amalekites. Imagine the scene, smoke still rising from the ruins, children missing, families kidnapped. The Bible says the men wept until they had no strength left to cry. But it didn't stop there. The soldiers became so bitter they began to talk about stoning David. The same men who once followed him into battle now blamed him for their suffering. David had lost his city, his family, and almost his leadership. But then the Bible says something powerful. David strengthened himself in the Lord. When everything collapsed around him, David did the one thing that many people forget to do. He asked God for direction. He called for the priest and the ephod, and he prayed a very specific prayer. "Lord, should I pursue this enemy? Will I overtake them?" And God answered him, "Pursue them. You will surely overtake them and recover everything." That promise alone should have been enough. But here is something powerful many people miss. God may give you permission to move, but He often reveals the strategy step by step. David now knew he must pursue the enemy, but there was one major problem. He had no idea where they were. The Amalekites could be anywhere. The wilderness was vast. Imagine chasing an invisible enemy across miles of desert. David had the promise of victory, but he still needed direction. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn, because the breakthrough didn't come from a prophet. It didn't come from a warrior. It came from someone nobody respected. As David and his 600 men moved through the wilderness searching for the enemy, they stumbled upon something unusual. A man lying on the ground, weak, starving, almost dead. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't important. He was just an abandoned servant. This Egyptian servant had belonged to the Amalekites, but when he became sick, his master abandoned him, left him to die in the wilderness. 3 days without food, 3 days without water, completely forgotten. To many people, this man would have looked useless, a burden, someone not worth stopping for. But David did something remarkable. He stopped. He fed the man. He gave him water. He restored his strength. And then David asked him a question that would change everything. "Who are you? Where do you come from?" The servant replied, "I am an Egyptian, the servant of an Amalekite." And suddenly, the man nobody cared about became the key to the entire mission. But here's the part most people miss. If King David had walked past that weak servant, if he had ignored him, if he had treated him like everyone else did, David might never have recovered his family, because the direction he needed was lying in the dust of the wilderness. And the same thing happens in our lives today. Let's continue the story. because what this servant revealed next completely changed David's destiny. After regaining strength, the servant made a shocking confession. He said, "My master left me behind because I fell sick." But then he added something crucial. He said, "We raided the land of Judah, and we burned Ziklag." In that moment, David realized something. This servant had been with the enemy. He knew where they were. He knew their path. He knew their location. The direction David had been searching for was inside the memory of this abandoned man. David then asked him the most important question: "Can you take us to them?" The servant replied, "I will show you if you promise to not kill me." David agreed, and suddenly the man who had been thrown away became the guide to victory.
Onward, warriors!
The Egyptian servant led David and his army through the wilderness, and eventually they found the Amalekites. The enemy was celebrating, eating, drinking, dancing. They believed they had already won, but they had no idea David was coming. The Bible says David attacked them from twilight until the evening of the next day, and the result? Total victory. The Amalekites were defeated, and something miraculous happened. David recovered everything: his wives, the children, all the possessions. Nothing was missing, not one thing. The same men who once wanted to stone him now were celebrating the victory God gave them. But none of it would have happened without the direction from an ignored servant. So the next time you pray for direction, stay sensitive, stay humble, stay open, because the answer may not come from someone famous. It may come from someone forgotten. Just like in the story of King David, the direction you need may come from someone you're about to walk past. And when God sends that voice, don't ignore it.